You know, lynching in America never really ended. Now it's largely being done by the police. So we take a deep dive into this with one of America's real experts on the topic. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. I was looking through some news stories the other day and saw this amazing piece by Dr. Jhacova Williams, a cultural economist with the Economic Policy Institute, EPI, with their program on race, ethnicity, and the economy. EPI.org is their website. The title was Black Deaths at the Hands of Law Enforcement Are Linked to Historical Lynchings. I found this just extraordinary. Dr. Williams is on the line with us. Dr. Williams' Twitter handle is at JHACOVA, Jhacova. Dr. Williams, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us and for this extraordinary research. I suppose at a certain level it makes sense that those communities that historically have lynched African Americans more frequently than others, shall we say, would have more deaths at the hands of black deaths at the hands of law enforcement officers right now. But what a shocking connection between then and now. Or is it not at all shocking? Is this simply the modern version of lynching? People, I think are correctly referring to what these Minneapolis police did to George Floyd as a lynching. What say you? And what does your research say?
I definitely say that it is a modern day lynching. So one thing I always like to talk about with people is just to discuss what is a definition of a lynching. I think that people think that lynchings are defined by time, but they aren't. They have four characteristics. The first is that there's evidence that someone was killed. The second is that someone was killed illegally. The third is that three or more people participated in the killing. And the fourth is that they were claiming tradition to be serving tradition or justice. When you look at George Floyd's killing, what do you see? Video evidence of him being killed, someone kneeling on him until he suffocates, which is illegal. 4 police officers participated in it, and they claim to be serving justice for a supposed $20 counterfeit bill. So it is modern day lynchings. And so I wasn't surprised at all that this thing connected. It's appalling. It's unfortunate, but I am happy that people are reading it. I'm happy that you invited me so that we can actually talk about what's going on and how it connects to the past.
So, Dr. Williams, would it just be too simplistic or even facile to say that what we have here are communities where white supremacy, white racism, white fear, the various dimensions of why white people behave badly around around race, are just basically community traditions, and that's the point at which it needs to be attacked. That's the root that needs to be pulled up with this weed, or is it something more less visible, less obvious, a little more sophisticated or complex, I guess would be the right word?
I think both things are true. And so you said at the beginning, I'm a cultural economist. And what that means is I look at how historical events continue to influence the economic and political behavior, in particular of Black individuals in the South. And what I found in my research is that there is a tradition of racism. Racism persists over time. And that's what you're seeing in these counties. You're actually seeing that these counties that can be linked with lynchings, they also can be linked with low voter turnout amongst Blacks. You see that these areas also have a higher percentage of Blacks who are killed by police officers. And I don't think that this is a coincidence. I think the good thing about this research is that it highlights that, hey, there is something called racism. It does persist over time. It has been a part of tradition. It's been a part of the culture in certain communities. And once we identify it, we next need to identify how do we stop it. And I think the first thing is talking about it. Actually just saying that, yes, history matters. I always say, if you look at my Twitter, the first thing that I tweeted was that history matters. And I think a lot of times we want to shy away from history, but we have to confront it. And I think we have to work with people like myself, economists, academics, grassroots organizations, people in law enforcement, and we need to come up with some type of remedy for this issue that's called racism.
Dr. Williams, I've told this story a few times on the show recently about how my wife, when she was in high school in East Lansing, Michigan, had to take Black Studies class, and it was an all-white school. But it changed her life. I mean, in a really consequential way, her understanding of race. I didn't have that experience in Lansing, Michigan, but I didn't finish high school, so which is a whole long story. I got kicked out for publishing an underground newspaper and ended up going straight to college. But but that's the sort of thing that it seems. I mean, if it's parents teaching their kids their own racism, which seems like the simplest, most straightforward explanation for this, the place where you can get between the parent and the child is in the schools. Is it not? And might that not be the place, in these communities that have not only historical lynchings, but also now contemporary murders by police and low voter turnout of minorities and things because of the structural engineering of the local power system, the political power system? Isn't that where we should be trying to intervene at the level of elementary, junior high, or middle schools and high schools?
I could not agree with you more. So I'm talking about stories. I'm from New Orleans, so that's where the beautiful accent comes from. And one thing about New Orleans is that people love New Orleans and they love, to come for Mardi Gras, to drink, party. But one thing that they don't realize about New Orleans is that it's a very segregated city. I went to all black schools my entire life. So elementary, middle, and high school. My middle school was named Thurgood Marshall, but 2 years prior to me attending it, it was named Beauregard. And it was named Beauregard from its founding date. And you actually had black people arguing for the fact that a school that had 100% black population attending it went to a school named after a Confederate general, and how crazy this was. And so it's one of those things where I didn't actually have my first black friend until I went to grad school. Because, again, New Orleans is so segregated and people don't see that. And so one thing that I think that is huge is that we have to look at how we're teaching our students. So, like the books that they read, but not only that, sorry, I'm getting emails, but not only just the books that they read, but just who they interact with. We live very segregated lives, and I wish that really people could look at that. When you're going to the grocery store, who do you see at your grocery store? If you believe in God, if you're going to church, who's at that church worshiping with you? So I think it starts with education, but I think that we need to really have more interactions with each other to realize that we really are a human race. We are the same. And once we can see each other that way, I think that it helps us to erase this problem that we have, which is racism.
Yeah. And I've been, in fact, I just had this discussion with a caller in the last hours who was saying, well, we just need to teach our police better. And I'm like, no, we need different kinds of police. We need to change the structure of our policing. But here we're talking about teaching our kids better. Are there other structural changes that could be made that would help in the minute we have left here before we're going to hit a hard break? Are there other changes that we can make that will help flush racism out of white culture, in your opinion? Oh,
for sure. One thing that I think is huge, I'm a big voting advocate. And so one thing that I want to do is ease the voting policies that we have. And so I think that we need to expand our voting methods. I think what you just saw in Georgia, in particular in Atlanta, is just a travesty. So I think that when we actually have racist policies, racist politicians, we need to make sure that people can vote these people out of office. And we need to also support new politicians as well who have new and innovative ideas. There is nothing called race-neutral policies. Either a policy is racist or it's not. And so we need to make sure that we're very clear about that. And again, when we see that someone's implementing racist policies, that we make sure that everyone has a right to vote, to voice how they feel about that and to vote people out. That's my main thing.
Right. Call it out, identify it. Some of these people I don't think can be shamed, but I get your point. And then have people vote in people of goodwill.